Hi everyone, it's Tucker from Delta Drive Design. Welcome back to another episode where we will be making engine mounts to get this Duramax mounted into this M677 frame. So in the previous episodes, we got this thing, mocked up and confirmed that it will likely fit within the body without too many issues. So we got what we need now. What we need to do is get this thing squared up, leveled relative to the frame, and then get the transmission squared up in line with the back pinion, and then start fabbing up some engine mounts. So as I mentioned in the previous video, these engine mounts are funky. They've got 3 holes, one here, and the one back here, and then the angles of all of these are different. But I think what it was from is because in the Colorado that this came out of, I believe there was a cross member that went from frame to frame, molded, stamped, all special, CNC or a computer designed to go from frame rail to frame rail and go underneath the engine. I'm not going to do that on this case, but that's why everything is so different. Is it was all custom computer designed to fit. But I think I can make something. My original plan was to make some nice brackets out of like 1/4-inch plate, CNC machine them out. But I think these are just going to be so complicated that it'll be easy enough, or it'll be easier to just fab it out of like some angle iron or C-channel in place. So to do that, need to get everything all squared up, and then I'll start with angle iron on the frame rail and just start building from there, and then get it sufficiently reinforced, welded up. And I don't believe I'm going to weld it to the frame. I'm going to bolt it to the frame, because when you start welding, you start getting things like that. So in my mind, it's better to bolt. We'll see how that goes. All right, well, let's go ahead and get this thing squared up and move on to the engine mounts. So here's the struggle with getting this engine squared up. We've got not really any level space, or level plane anywhere on this engine, except for potentially the top of the head, which is completely inaccessible on this side. There's no bolt holes that I could bolt something to. As far as I can tell, that bolt and that bolt are in a plane that's likely, it looks at least, in the same plane as the head. Then there's these 2 bolts right here and right here, which do look awfully level compared to the rest of the engine. And so I've got this level that I made years ago for doing alignments. You set these 2 plastic pieces, they're machined the same, they got a little slot in them, and you adjust them so you can fit them on your rim. And that way, long story, but ultimately it allows you to shine a laser to the back wheel, back to the front, and then do like a homemade alignment jig. Never did end up finishing it because it was just easier to do it with a piece of string, but someday I'll get around to it. But I think it'll work perfect for this. The other option, I think this looks about parallel with the block. So you can see the block back there. It's rather inaccessible. So maybe those 2 holes. And maybe once I get everything done, I'll confirm off those 2 holes. But for now, we'll start with this. Let's try to get us close. So I've got, this one set on that plane, and then I'm going to use this portion of the frame as my other plane. So you can see I'm not quite level, just sitting as it is. But what I can do is use an angle finder. I've got the old analog style. It's not quite sitting. So we're setting, I don't know, like 1 degree on there. And then I'll go ahead and get that set to 1 degree. All right, let's get to it. ready. Got the engine all leveled up, but let's look at the current dilemma I have. So I've got a bunch of straps holding it in position. I've got this strap down here holding it in its left to right position, which, sidetrack on that, I was trying to, in order to set the pinion or set the transmission position in the back, I need to find the center line of the front of the engine and match it in the back, assuming that the crank is linear all the way to the output shaft, which I believe is an accurate assumption. So I was measuring off here, but I looked at it carefully, and this is the water pump, which is not in line with the crank, because this, as it sits, is like dead center between the rails, which doesn't matter. I don't care if it's dead center. I just need the spacing inside the doghouse to be centered, not necessarily within the frame, for clearance of like this stuff and that stuff. So I took a measurement off the pulley, crank pulley, and turns out I am 1.5 inches shifted to the passenger side, which was good to know. So then I got the transmission over here. It's secured 1.5 inches to the passenger side, which does definitely help with my offset pinion angle over here. But so I got everything leveled out, so I've got those two holding it in its left to right position, and then I've got ratchet strap here twisting it because it was leaning towards the passenger, so now I've got it twisted to the driver. And so off of those two bolts I indicated before up here, it's as level as the frame. Now the problem is I was about ready to start looking at making engine mounts, but then I was like, let's check real quick, because this was looking, well, just thinking about it, if I pulled the engine to the driver's side, that means, all this stuff's going to shift towards the driver's side, which is like the worst direction. And it's quite obvious that I've done that based on the oil filter. If you remember previously, it was like, in the previous video, it was about 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch here. Now I've got a good 2 inches. So now I'm thinking I want to shift the entire engine over another 2 inches. Now the dilemma with that, though, is I'm already butted all the way up to the frame on the engine mount here. So, I could get away with not having. I could cut this tab off, and maybe that's the better solution here. Is cut this level and weld a plate to this and bolt it to the frame. Yeah, maybe that's the better solution. But nevertheless, I really think I need to move the whole engine over 2 inches in order to get this clearance tight, because this clearance, now we're into the doghouse. I need to get those 2 inches back, because none of this works now. So it's glad I checked. But now I got some more work cut out for me. I need to get everything shifted over 2 inches. So back to the drawing board. Or I guess not drawing board. So back to shifting the engine. So I think I found a solution to the engine mount problem. As I mentioned earlier, I have to slide the whole engine over pretty much as far as I can to the passenger side, which meant that this engine mount, was already touching the frame, so couldn't work. And I was talking about maybe cutting this ear off. I found an even better solution. Wow, that didn't work as well. Get rid of it. So I did some exploratory surgery on this one, and it turns out the way it's made is it's got this inner section that's got the rubber piece that's bolted to the top, and then this part is pressed onto the silver part, and it's got these two little ears that are folded over, and it's what essentially keeps the engine from falling out, like keeps this bushing from pushing out. And so you know, I tried pounding these out, but I couldn't do that from within the rest of the engine mount. I just couldn't get a good angle with the chisel, so I just cut it off, and then I was able to do some quick relief scores here and here, and you know, a couple hits with a hammer, and it started popping out. So I went ahead and put it back together and ground off all the weld from the old engine mount, and it seems to fit pretty well. It has about an inch and a half between this body and the frame, and so I think this is the way to do it, and that makes it a lot easier to actually make the other side of the mount, because other than, you know, here I've got, I mentioned before, I got that plane, I got that plane, I got that plane that have to like figure something out, or I just get rid of it and I just make my own. You know, likely I'll get a piece of C-channel and notch the C-channel around this, weld it in, and then weld that C-channel to a plate that'll bolt to the frame, and that'll be much easier to deal with. I won't have to figure out some weird angles. It'll look a little more professional and probably be a little stronger too. So I didn't show you guys how I did this one, but I'll go ahead and pull the other one out and show you how I cut that guy apart. All right, stay tuned. All right, so I got this one off. It's a little bit different than the other one. It's got much less of a substantial top piece, because like that half of it stays bolted to the engine, and this half bolted off. I think just because of the different stuff on that side of the engine, they had to do it a little different. No difference to me. Should still work the same. But here you can see it unmolested, where I, you know, will end up cutting this off, end up cutting this tab off to release the body. And I guess I didn't explain why I'm doing that. It's because I don't want to weld on this body with all this the rubber bushing inside of it. That way I can take the rubber out, weld on this without compromising the rubber, and then put it back together. So that's why I'm doing that. So go ahead and pop this top piece off so we can get this rubber thing off, and then start cutting it apart. All right, there we go. We got that one taken apart. This one fought me a little more on these little tabs. I must not have done a deep enough relief cut, because it ended up beating on it pretty hard to get it off, but that's okay. Got it apart, so let me go ahead and clean up. You know, it's a work day tomorrow, so it's quitting time, so we'll try again probably after work tomorrow. All right, thanks for watching.